Fingers crossed with this one. I'm really not sure about this. One's a tag pen, extremely permanent. One's a whiteboard marker. It was that good of a crop. I won an award for it. 3.5 tonne of fertiliser on per hectare. Actually apply a fungicide with the planter, but we didn't. Most people should. Irrigation, or lack thereof, as I've mentioned. Well, g'day everybody. It's not usually how I start my videos, but it's usually more of a positive light. It's like, yeah, g'day. But we're looking at a bit of death here, and that is paddock. We sprayed it off, getting ready for our crops. So this video today was just going to be more about what our plan is for a few paddocks of cropping stuff. Then the other idea that I had was that we'd run through gross margins on what our crops actually cost us to grow. Our last season's crop being poppies and potatoes. What we're looking at here is a paddock that I sprayed off a week, 10 days ago now, just with Roundup, glyphosate 450 and a little bit of dicamba. So these little gremlins here, that there is a dock, we've got chickweed, we've got cat's ear, bit of henbit. This paddock here, it's underneath the pivot, and I was planning on putting in turnips. So I'm hoping that we can start working this paddock in the next week, 10 days. Obviously when it dries out a little bit, because at the moment it's a little bit moist. So turnips in, now they're quite a slow maturing crop, and I don't think I've posted much about it on my channel before about growing sort of crops for cattle feed, which is more of what I'll start to do in future years, is heading towards summer crops and trying to suit with the dairy cows instead of doing a crop that doesn't sort of, more or less just a cash crop. Because something I worked out last season is that those cash crops were great for cash, but then I didn't have enough silage and hay. It was more important for me with the way that we've structured things is to make more grass. And then if we've got any more grass, to conserve that grass in a bale, ready for when the season doesn't go to plan like it did in last year. Another paddock. So this paddock here, I'm not sure this has been worked in decades. So my plan here was to, well, it's already been sprayed off. We'll work this paddock, and the plan is, and put an annual ryegrass in it. At the moment what's in here is just a lot of like cocksfoot and big rye, just old varieties of grass that really aren't producing much. The last couple of years we've done this paddock for hay, and it really just has not performed. Yes, nutrition is probably a limiting factor as well, but the other limiting factor is definitely the pasture species that's in here, or lack thereof. A lot of weeds and just wasn't doing. Put it down to annual ryegrass, get a cut of silage off it, and then we'll put it in with kale for a crop, a winter crop I guess. We'll be planting it in sort of early summer, and then that'll take about 6 months to grow to a sort of prominent yield. And I'm hoping that we'll have sort of kale, you know, 6 foot high. That would be the ultimate aim. And now that will just ensure that we've got somewhere to put the cows during dry off. So once we've dried the cows off in that late winter period, we've got somewhere to put them. Now, this other paddock, you'll be like, why didn't you spray that little strip off? That was an old laneway. There are a lot of rocks in that, and I'm just not going to touch it. So this other paddock, we're going to work this up shortly as well, and we're going to be very bold and try and put a paddock of poppies in. You know, I've got no idea if that's the right decision to make. I was toying up with the idea of putting an Italian ryegrass in here and then making it into silage and then going through for the next season as just a pasture. But I'm going to roll the dice and try some dryland poppies, because this block is not irrigated. So wish me luck. And I don't know how we're going to go for emergence. If we don't get a good enough emergence, we'll go straight in with some grass. Fingers crossed with this one. I'm really not sure about this. Funnily enough, the front paddock right in front of the house is going to be our next paddock that we will put turnips in as well. I did toy with the idea about putting poppies in this paddock. It's the last crop that I can remember being in here when I was about 10, 12, maybe 14. So that's still 20 something years ago that this paddock hasn't had anything done with it. Well, I shouldn't say anything done with it, it's grown pasture. But now, yeah, I don't know if you can really tell, but a lot of that is actually rope twitch. And whilst it's a great lawn variety of grass, not really ideal here in a situation where we're trying to feed cows. It just ain't right. Not compared to a perennial ryegrass that will just outperform it. The plan is turnips, like that other paddock under the pivot. We'll try, well, this one's a little bit behind because there's obviously cows still in it. I'll spray this off as soon as I can and then work it and put it down to turnips as well. Again, with the same with the other paddock, it'll probably be, I'm gonna say 3-4 months till we can actually graze this crop of turnips. That's if they succeed. And then once we've got the turnips out, we'll sow it back down to a perennial pasture. I just really like the idea of sort of breaking the grass up and putting something else in it besides the grass. Just seems to break things up, and all anecdotal. I'm not sure there's any science behind it, but just like to be able to renovate it with something else, not just grass and grass and grass and grass. Just gives us a good opportunity. So you might have noticed, like that's roughly the paddocks that we're going to do for cropping this year. Not a real lot, but you'll notice no spuds, no potatoes. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not, but time will tell whether that was a good decision or not. But at the end of the day, I want to focus on these things, the cows. This is what I want to be bread and butter. Spuds have been hugely beneficial for us for the last 7-8 years, whatever we've been growing them for now. But now I just want to focus on this. But now let me go into some gross margins. Let me work out where I'm going to do all this. I need a whiteboard and I need a whiteboard marker. Let's hit it. Ta-da! Very makeshift, as creative as I can be. Fertiliser bag. Got 4 different markers here. Hopefully one of them will work. One's a tag pen, extremely permanent. One's a whiteboard marker. Don't know if it's going to work. That's a permanent marker and a Sharpie permanent marker. One of them, sure. All right, we'll start with poppies because I feel like poppies are going to be the easiest one to cover. 4 main parts with the poppies. It'll be pre-planting, planting, in crop, and harvest. Simple. 4. I feel like lease could be even just your repayments on your farm or interest payments. We've got spraying off, groundwork. Okay, before I start putting down some numbers, these are all sort of roughly what I think I've paid for them. They're no red hot deals with anything in particular, and all the application costs of like spraying and spreading that I've done myself, I still put them at market rate for what a contractor would have to be paid, just to keep a sort of level playing field for other crops that you compare to. So there are a few of the disclaimers. Biggest disclaimer is do your own. This is just what I've done for myself. And one major thing, everything will be worked out on a per hectare basis, just to try and keep things, so you're not doing it by a paddock, because everyone's paddock is a different size. Got about $500 a hectare. Spraying off, so that includes the chemical, which I'm pretty sure was just glyphosate and camber, and then the contract rate for that. And our contract rate for spraying in Tassie is around 45 to 50 bucks, well 45 to 55 really. So I think I've just sort of split the middle and gone with 50 bucks. $75. Now groundwork, what we did was we dissed it twice and then we ploughed it, and that was it. So it was pretty bare bones. That was around $375. The planting seed for growing poppies is actually supplied by the company. So that costs you nothing, $0. Fertilizer. Now we used 14-12-12 at 250 kilos. Just a good all-round brew for what we were trying to achieve with that paddock. Worked out to be about $260 a hectare. Planning's done. We'll then go to in-crop. Herbicide, it was a very standard program for us. It consisted of Command, Star-Ain, Azulox, then a Reglone, and then we finished it up with Callisto. Herbicides was about $170. Now fungicides, we did 3 fungicides, 1 early, 1 mid, 1 late, and then we also incorporated a growth regulator with it too, which is just shoe magic. Uniconazole, I think the active is in that one. We did that at about 300 mils, so not a huge rate. Fertilizer wise, 3 hits of 100 kilos of urea throughout the growing season. Obviously 1 irrigation at the very end there. So I maybe could have got away with not doing it, but I think it did help for our yield component. Our $60 a hectare for that. Growth regulator is $80, and fertilizer is a bit of a biggish one, $225 for urea for that price. And then I've got to include all the contractor rates for doing that. $425. Oh, and one other thing, irrigation. Obviously 1 application of 25 mils across that whole paddock went to about $70 a hectare because there was no costs for the water. The dam obviously was there. We don't actually have to pay for water if we take it from a dam that we have on our place. $70. So that was a pretty cheap component of it, really. Now we've got the final one, which is harvest. Now that one is pretty cool in the fact that there are no costs with harvest. The company, Tazauk, or Extract Taz, Sun Farmer, all the companies provide a harvest service for the farmers, so they don't pay for that. So essentially, we don't pay for the harvester, the trucks to the factory, no cost to us. Okay, so if we work through, that's 950 prior. So we spend a lot of our money prior to the actual event. Planting is 260. Yeah, the in-crop just about doubles our cost of production there. $1,160. So if we add all these up, it comes to $2,370 per hectare to grow a paddock of poppies. What we actually got for our crop, we were paid $7,290 per hectare. It was an exceptional result for us, really, considering the level of input that we did. So that was a profit of $4,920 per hectare. Pretty happy with that result. It was that good of a crop. I won an award for it. Mind you, there weren't many of these crops grown in Tassie. Oh, disclaimer. Not always does this happen though. So I will cherish this. That's a pretty good summary of the poppies. We'll now turn it around and the bag around and do potatoes. Potatoes. Let's do potatoes. Now this is a lot more intensive, a lot more things go into it, a lot more money is being spent. And disclaimer, this is only my costings. Now I did do a bit of a, what would you call it? A cheap running model for my potatoes because I knew that I wasn't going to have enough water and I wasn't going to throw the kitchen sink, it's an expression, I just simply wasn't going to achieve like a massive yield because I just didn't have the water. I've got a whole heap of notes here that just, yeah, there's a lot here to digest. So same principle though, it goes through the same 4 prior to planting, in-crop and harvest. You know, every single one of those, it's got a lot of detail in it. So I'm just trying to work out how I break it up to make it so we don't have to use 4 sides of a bag. I think I might just put like the total cost of what it was, but I'll talk about what we actually did to make up that cost. And I might even hold this because it's my video, do what I want. Makes me look pretty smart too, eh? Prior to planting, we've got to, again, our lease cost. Now I have bumped this up a little bit more because this is a more valuable crop to grow, and it's something you can't grow every single year. Same with the poppies a little bit too, but in an ideal world, you would do at least 7 years between doing another spud crop. So you can't just spud or put spuds in every single paddock because you just won't have a rotation. Now, rotation is very important for general farming practices. You can look that up on Google. Okay, so there's the lease, then there's spraying off. Same sort of deal, apply the contractor rates to the spraying, and then groundwork begins. Now a lot of that we were able to do ourselves, but again, I had to put that down. We dissed it a couple of times just to sort of chop it up, that sort of little top layer of stubble. We then ploughed it. One paddock in particular we ploughed, the other one we didn't have to. We then rip hoed it, which is essentially a deep ripper in front of a hoe on the back of the tractor. Because there's only so much fertiliser we can put down with the planter, we put a pre-spread of fertiliser on. So put even more on. A little interesting note, we end up putting about 3.5 tonne of fertiliser on per hectare. It's a lot of fertiliser. Okay, so I've just written it up. For those that are interested in the fertiliser, we did use 0617 and we spread it on at 1 tonne to the hectare. And we did that in front of the rip hoe, and that was then incorporated by that last implement pass prior to the planter coming in. So, lease groundwork fertiliser, $2,720 per hectare. We're off higher. We're already higher cost of production than the poppies, just in one hit. Now we go to the planting. Now planting, I think, is one of the more stressful sort of times. It's when you've got to organise everyone to be in the sort of the one spot. You've got to get your fertiliser there, you've got to get your seed there, and they're all things that we definitely have to pay for. And now there's a lot to do with the seed that you've got to pay for. So it's not like poppies at all in this respect. We have to pay for the cool storage, the seed treatment, the whatever else that's got to go on. And someone's just rocked up for some calves. It's Jaden. And this is what we actually did with planting. Fertiliser, 11, 13, 19 at 2 tonne to the hectare. That's virtually as much as what a planter will put down, so that's what we go with. That alone was $2,100 just in fertiliser costs there. Seed, we put at 3 tonne to the hectare. That's even more of a cost. I've got down written here at $3,630 just in seed. So you can see just those two things alone, not even like contractor stuff, huge amount of cost just in that alone. Now usually people put down a fungicide treatment with their crops. I probably did a bit of a naughty thing and didn't bother altogether. Usually we're treating for pink rot, black scuff, rhizoctonia, all these different sort of seed-borne diseases. We can actually apply a fungicide with the planter, but we did. Most people should. Don't listen to my advice with that one. You should apply it. I'll save myself a few dollars there. Part that we have to pay for obviously is the contractor side of things, and we need to pay for the planting and then cartage too, where we need to cart everything to us, so the seed and the fertiliser. So now we've got the fert, the seed and the contractor side of things. Now that works out to be $6,180 per hectare. Huge. Righto, the juicy part, in crop. This is where we start to do all our spraying and our fertilising, our irrigation or lack thereof. As you know, if you look back at the videos, didn't do much of that. Herbicide, generally we work on, the spuds will come up and then, well, or not quite up, and you'll burn them off altogether, usually with the spray seed or a metribuzin. In our case, it was a little bit dry, so not many weeds came up, so we didn't actually put a spray seed on this year, which was a little bit unusual. but we did put a metribuzin on for radish and just other broadleaf weeds that we could control. And then we started our fungicide program, which is pretty much tooth and nail. We're doing it every single week from about week 4 all the way through to about week 16, 18 even, if you really stretch it out. Pesticides are generally grouped in insecticides, herbicides and fungicides, and there's molluscicides, there's other sides as well. But insecticides, as we've been trying to do for many years now, we didn't apply any. We did have a little bit of cutworm, but we just sort of chose to look the other way and just hope that they didn't do too much damage, which they didn't. We relied on the beneficiaries to do their magic. Fertilizer. So we've, like I've mentioned before, we've done 1 tonne pre-spread, 2 tonne at planting, and then we end up doing 3 125 kilos of urea. So almost 3.5 tonne of fertilizer to go on that paddock for this crop. Pretty standard for our area and what we're growing. Irrigation, or lack thereof. Now, in general, when in my agronomy years, I have told people that they should work on having available 4 to 6 megs of water, so 4 to 6 million litres of water per hectare to grow a crop. I worked out that I applied 1.8 megs of water. I was fairly short on what I probably should have applied. And it sort of almost made it, no, it definitely made it worse in that it was a really dry season. We hardly got any rain, so I didn't get any help either. The 1.8 megs is almost like a third or a half of what we really did need. But that's all we had available to us, and to get the crop that we did get in the end of about 55 tonne, I think it was, pretty happy. Also, should mention that some people pay for water. Again, I'll mention in this that the dam water provided, we don't actually have to pay for. Water on the dam, it's ours to use. Alright, so in crop, we've got our pesticides. Oh, pesticides, fertilise, and water. And I guess contractor, as I've mentioned before, it'll all be based on standard contractor rates. And that worked out to be $1,340. And I just thought I'd run through the fungicide because I said it was bare bones. This is how bare bones it was. We did 1 emblem, we did 5 Bravos, or chlorthalonil is the active, and 1 Amistar top at the end. So we only did 7 fungicides. Very basic fungicides. You can get a plethora of different fungicides are available for the potatoes. We just did the bare bones because I knew it wasn't going to be the best one. Alright, the final piece of the puzzle, harvest. A harvest is pretty simple to talk about, really, because there's really only 3 components of it. Now that is the harvester we've got to pay for, the cartage, and the labour on the back. So there's only 3 things. Yeah, labour is mainly sourced by labour hire companies for us. It used to be just back in the day, the whole family would just be on the back of a digger and sort that out. But these days it's a little bit more tricky with OH&S clamping down a little bit on the back of a digger. So harvest, like I said, it's really just labour and contractor, being the harvester and the trucks. $3,768. All right, let's get down to it. So the more exciting part, this total cost was $14,000. A fair bit. But as far as an industry-wide situation, I think last season it was down as about $20,000. Well, that's how much it can vary. This is probably the lower end, but I would say that it could be up around $20,000 if you're putting more inputs in. If you do that, you then have to, not guarantee, but you've definitely got to push towards getting a greater yield at the end of it to make sure you recoup your costs. Okay, so now I'm going to use rough numbers, but we roughly made 55 tonne a hectare of potatoes, or we sent in, and so we were paid $27,000. $13,000. Oh, I'm running out of board and flat area. $13,000 a hectare, roughly in profit. $13,000 from a low input, I am pretty happy with. Yes, there would be people out there that would say 55 tonne is a really low yield, but for us, if we're still making that sort of money, I see it as a good, safe result. Right, I've collected all my pens. I've gone into as much detail as I think is necessary. I obviously could go into a lot more detail, list everything, nice pretty Excel sheet and paste it on to the screen, but I don't have any idea how to do that. Plus, I think it's probably just a bit overkill. Hopefully it sort of just gives you a bit of a broad outline of what's involved in it, what things cost roughly, and yeah, hopefully it's of interest. If you've got any questions, because there's a lot of info, a lot of numbers, a lot of things being said, just list it down with as a question or a comment or whatever you like. Yeah, for those that have stuck around this far, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. See ya.